and welcome back to Regrets. Well, that could be welcome to Regrets It. That's right. It's me. I'm back. That's correct. You didn't think you'd ever see me again. Don't say that, because you always knew that I would be back. Just like Arnold Schwarzenegger in so many movies, I'll be back, he says. And you know, just like Slim Shady said, guess who's back? So that's right. I am back. And welcome back to Regrets It. Brexit England, Northern Ireland, Eastern Europe, and now the good old United States of America. Welcome, my brothers. Welcome, my sisters. Welcome to the USA. They have joined our Brexit clan. And we all know what that's about. So, as I come back with my first video, I thought, what should I cover? It could only be Brexit. That's the only thing that I can cover. So I thought, let me troll through the internet and look for some stories about Brexit. And literally one of the first ones I came up with, because it was last night that I actually done a video for TikTok, right? Which I'm going to post on here a bit later. So please, I beg you to watch that and to like, share, subscribe, please. So I beg you to watch that video, right? So that was what has really kicked me straight up the backside to say, you know what? I need to start making some live content again, because I've been away for a while, but I have utilized that time, and I've written like 2 novels, and I've got like a children's series that I've written. So I brought out my own new character. I just have to get the production on these things, but I have written all of them so far, so that's all done. And I've been doing a lot of poetry as well. So, and I've done a brilliant poem about what I think is a brilliant poem. Okay, what I think is a brilliant poem about Trump, Vance, and Zelensky in the Oval Office. So last night, I think a couple of days ago, right, I've heard this new term, right, which is called black fatigue. I've done a video about it. You need to watch it later. But, so that's what's kicked me back into the video. So now, as I was trawling through the internet to look for something, something I could talk about, I found this lady.
We're weak. Starmer's weak. Boris Johnson was weak. And until we get a government that cares about the whole country, including the 186 seats that sit in coastal communities, we've had it. We really have had it.
The Prime Minister is reportedly preparing to cave in to the European Union and agree a deal which guarantees European fishing boats continued and increased access to British waters for 4 extra years. Now, in a significant concession ahead of the UK-EU summit, Sir Keir Starmer hopes the compromise will break the deadlock with Brussels as he tries to secure his much-vaunted Brexit reset. Lord Frost, the former Brexit negotiator, has described the move as a shameful surrender of fishing communities' rights. And I'm joined now by the former Brexit Party MEP and fishing campaigner, June Mummery. June, welcome to the show. Always a pleasure to have your company. June, you put down a video at the weekend in no uncertain terms, speaking your mind to the Prime Minister. Tell us your thoughts.
I'm absolutely disgusted. And as for David Frost pointing that out, well, wasn't he, along with Boris Johnson, didn't he sell us out 5 years ago? I mean, let's get things in perspective here. The Tories are to blame initially. We voted to leave the EU, take back full control of our waters and the rich, lucrative resource, to rebuild deprived coastal communities. And they really are deprived, Martin. You only have to go around the coastal towns to just see how bad things are, because their natural industry has been taken away, been stolen from them. So, let's get that straight. The Tories started this, and now Labour have come in, and they are just going to continue with this same codswallop, in my opinion, and that is what it is. How can we be an independent coastal state when we don't even control our own waters? What leader of a...
Former MEP June Mummery. And you know something? Still screaming her head off. You're weak. Something about Lord Frost, something about how poor it is in the coastal towns. I bet there was a lot richer when we was in the EU though, right? June Mummery's best place she could have been would be in the EU, fighting for the very fishermen you're fighting from, but you can't fight from a place of weakness, June Mummery. Do you not understand that? We told you this, and you people still went ahead and told us we don't know what we're talking about. When it comes to Brexit, shut up. You don't know what you're speaking about, right? You're lying. That's what you said to us. We don't know what we're speaking about. And we told you this was going to be a scenario. This was going to be a scenario where you're fighting from a position of weakness. And now you're screaming your head off while you was an MEP. And you're speaking about Nigel Farage was one of the people with you there, because if you was an MEP, you'd have had to be there the same time as Nigel Farage. Okay, so Nigel Farage was there. How many fisheries meetings did Nigel Farage go to while he was in the EU? He'd come out, used you people, right, you fishermen, right, to vote against your very own interest, stupidly. Because, the unfortunate thing is, right, when you're negotiating, yes, there's one thing that you people are correct about, when it comes to the fishing community. There's one thing that I can say to you, yes, you are absolutely correct about. And that is one of our strongest negotiating parts was the fisheries. And that's a fact. And do you know why that is? I'm not even going to give you any time to think about it, because you know something? You would never come up with the answer, because you know why? Do you know why that is? Because you're too fucking stupid to come up with the answer. You have no sense in your head to come up with the correct answer. So you wouldn't know what the correct answer to that question is. Would you? You're still thinking, right? What's he thinking? What is it? And that is, it's the only thing we had. That's it. Because remember, this country, we don't really have any natural resources. We sold off our manufacturing industry a long time ago. They've gone a long time ago. All our car industries. Don't start talking about them. Don't start talking about the Mini, because the Mini's German. It is a BMW. It's not made by Austin. It's made by BMW. So it is German. Okay, so don't start talking. So you tell me, what natural resources have we got apart from our waterways? We don't. There's no other natural resources in this country. I mean, maybe Golden Delicious, maybe some Golden Delicious, or maybe some of the grapes that can be grown out in Kent. But they can grow grapes anywhere. If grapes grow in this country, you can grow grapes anywhere. So that is the one bargaining power that we had. But then, when you put that up against the EU, now you've got 99 problems, haven't you? And if you thought that I couldn't get a Jay-Z reference into that, well, you was sadly mistaken, June Mummery, because now you've got 99 problems, because they've got 100 things. They've got 100 things. Trust me, they've got 100 things, because they've got 20-odd countries. Nearly 30 countries. So they're all going to have something, one thing that's naturally in their country. So they're all going to... We had things that are very easily transferable. Nothing that we could really hold them to. Cheddar? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Heinz Baked Beans was thinking was going to hold the Europeans to say, well, this is what we've got to negotiate with. We have nothing to negotiate with. That's what you've got to understand. And you... shouting off your mouth, we're weak. Starmer's weak. Boris is weak. Shouting off your mouth, you have put us in this position. You are the Brexiters. The Brexiters have given Starmer, that's right, Starmer is weak, because you've weakened him even more. But you know something? As I've always said, I'll be fair on this, because Starmer's a jam idiot as well, because Starmer voted for Boris Johnson. Well, I would have said to him, if it's me, I'd have said to all my politicians, no. We're not voting on that, innit? No? Right. We're not voting on what? We're voting on that for. What kind of foolishness is that? We're abstaining. Let them take all of this. The Tories have got enough MPs to get that through. We're abstaining. Because later on, I don't want anybody in the video to say, that's a damn idiot for voting for it. Any politician in this country who voted for it, right, is a... Can I swear when I talk about politicians? A fuckwit, twat. You're a damn fool. Any politician that voted for that. Because if me and all of the other people who voted for Remain, or all the other people who was in the know, who knew that, you know something, we don't really have that much to bargain with when we're going up against nearly 30 other countries. Unless you thought maybe we've got some new Carry On films we're going to start making, and maybe, bring back, a London type of Hollywood type scenario where we're showing off the new, maybe the new Route Master in some new, doctors and stuff like that. But I don't know what these people are thinking of. All of our industries have been sold out. Okay? The only thing we had to bargain with was our waterways. And you weakened it. But these people are too stupid to work this out. They're too thick to understand. They do not understand how politics works. And that's why we are in a country where we've always had the wrong people in politics. We haven't got people who want to help the people. Okay? That's what we don't have. We don't have that. We're not lucky enough for that. We look at places like China and say, look at them. Communists. But they have 100-year plan. I heard this yesterday and I thought, whoa, this is for real. Their food plan, China, they're planning for the next 100 years. How long is Britain and America and the rest of Europe, how long were they planning for? They ain't even planning for 4 years. They're planning for 4 terms for nonsense. If they get 4 years, they can't put anything into motion. And they're not even trying to do that. All of our industries in this country have been sold off. And you've got people like these people who will expect to throw immigrants out of a country, just like we've done in America, and watch all the farms collapse. All those farms collapse. Because unless... I'll be straight with you. In this country I live in, there are a load of uneducated idiots. A lot of them. A lot. And there's too many. And I'll tell you why that is. Because every child in this school, in this country, goes through 3 phases of school. So every child gets an education. So that should make us an educated nation of people. But you tell me, how the hell an educated nation of people have made them sell off all the assets of this country? I don't need to wait for your answer, because you know something? The majority of you in this country, you'll be too stupid to understand that question. How would you make them do that? Gas, water, electric, right? Housing out to the private sector. How would you make them make them do that? Right? How would you let them do that, right? And find that acceptable? I mean, you've got to be an uneducated idiot on a serious level to do that. While we're paying for our gas, water and electric, and our money is going into other countries to pay their pensions in other countries, whether it's Canada. I ain't got nothing against the Canadians. Spain, Italy. I ain't got nothing against the Spanish or the Italians. Germany. I ain't got nothing against the Germans. But you know something? those investments should not be in our energy under any circumstances. So you tell me, in an educated country, how has that happened? How's that happened? That we're in a situation where our money is being paid to other countries who have got investments so that they can pay their pensions from us. Selling off to the private sector, yeah? Well, none of this happened, yeah, when I ever had a vote, because all this happened when I was a very small child. But even as a very small child, right, I could see that it was all going to go really badly wrong. Because if you're asking the private sector to look after the public, yeah, okay, good luck with that. And if you're stupid enough back then to not realise that, then you're stupid enough now to not realise that that's what our problem is in this country. That's one of our major problems. All that money should be in our economy, using in our tax money. Shouldn't be going nowhere else. We're having problems looking after our elderly has been privatised in this country. All social care has been privatised, and it's all crashing. Right. There's 130,000 members of staff needed in that alone, and just now what they're doing now is that's the visas that they're blocking for people to come over and do that work. They're saying now they want people who have got degrees. So if someone's going to go and take a degree in another country, and they're going to come over here to be a carer, so they can come over and clean up people's piss and shit to take a degree for that. That's how good they think it is. These people want to get into this country. These people, what they've done is they've bumped their head. We've already got industries that have collapsed in this country, and they're just about to make the social care a lot worse. But anyway, back to June Mummery, because that all of that, it's all Brexit related, because it's all the same idiots. But anyway, what I was saying is, June, it was a perfectly fantastic use of the word codswallop. Quite enjoyable. Let's see what else she's got to say.
Full of fish, full of a rich resource, whether it is fishing, wind energy or aggregates, any of that. Shouldn't we be harvesting these rich resources? I just don't understand it. Why is fishing always brought in? It obviously proves one thing. It is a great resource to have, and it is worth lots and lots of money to the EU. But for some reason, our government couldn't care less. Coastal folk, they're just these sorry people. We're the kings and queens. Suck it up, buttercups on the coast. We don't care about coastal communities. And the only party that does is Reform UK. We are and have been fighting for this industry since 2016 and prior to that.
Now, June, a lot of people watching this would say, in fact, Kemi Badenoch was commenting last night on GB News. She sat down with Chris Hope, saying the Labour Party and perhaps some in the Conservative Party don't seem to understand fishing. It's only 1% of GDP. Why do Brexiteers, why do people like yourself get so impassioned about it? It's only 1% of the gross domestic product.
Well, it's only worth GDP of 1% because we've given it away. 80% of the fish the EU catches comes from our waters. I mean, you only got to look at Iceland. When they kicked us out, within 2 weeks, we were buying fish from them because we had thousands and thousands of jobs on the Humber that needed raw material to continue. And the same thing with us. And it's a food resource. So what are we going to do? And looking back at the industries, what industry will coastal folk have? Because it's just not fishing. That is GDP is only net to plate. From plate onwards, there's another 7 series of employment of various different things, from even building ships. It was just a massive thing for our island nation. But, we don't take it seriously because they don't care, Martin. They don't care.
And June, what's incredible about this is that if fishing is such a small part of GDP, if it's so inconsequential, why do the French and the Spanish care so much about British fish?
Exactly right. I mean, fishing is, and not just that. It's a wonderful, simple industry. And if we had taken back control when we left the EU, I would predict by now it would be thriving. Thousands and thousands of jobs would be created. You know, I'm fed up with wind energy brings all these jobs. No, they don't. That's another lot of codswallop, in my opinion. There's a few jobs with the boats that go out to sea, but they're all the majority of wind farms are all foreign owned as well. So they bring their own people in that come over here from various different countries. We're weak. Starmer's weak. Boris Johnson was weak. And until we get a government that cares about the whole country, including the 186 seats that sit in coastal communities, we've had it. We really have had it. Just look at how many coastal seats was lost in that general election. And I can tell you this, Martin, if our Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, sells us out, I will terrorise him. And I will never let those we have got 3-4 good MPs in coastal seats that are fighting. But apart from that, we hope the others actually get out from under the table and say to him, we can't do it. Because those Labour coastal seats will be toast.
OK, we have to leave it there. June Mummery shooting straight from the hip.
The only thing to call these people was stupid. Didn't I say that? Didn't I say? What else can you call them? These people are thick. They have no sense in the back of their head. Hear what she said? Iceland. What did she say about Iceland? Iceland kicked us. They don't want us in the... Of course they don't want us in their waters. Do you know why that is? Because the fish that we eat in this country swims around there. So, when we was in the EU, our fishermen could go there and get it nice and easy. But the EU had so much bargaining power within the deal that they could say, well, your fishermen are not allowed in certain waters in the EU. Whereas with us, we were so weakened by leaving the EU that our only thing was to say, yes, we'll take that part of the deal. Which is why our fishermen, you dumb idiot fools, cannot go into Iceland. But their fishermen can come into our waters because that's the deal that they have with the EU. It's called working from a position of weakness. Remember when I said we've got 99 problems? We've got one solution, but they've thrown 99 problems at us. They're for 100, but we gave them that bit of waterways, so that took away one part. This is the problem with these people. What it absolutely amazes me, right? That they have put us in this position now, and now she wants to talk about reform. Nigel Farage. This is the people that this country wants to follow. Nigel Farage. Why would this country want to follow Nigel Farage? Nigel Farage is one of the people who have fought hard to get us in this position. Down to him, he's fought very, very hard to get us right where we are. Down to Nigel Farage. This is a man who is ex-National Front, apparently. But he denies it now. Why would you deny that? Why would you deny that? Right? Documented cases that at school, when he was at school, he used to sing Nazi songs to Jewish students. So you tell me how, you just have to go through, your record direction and tell me how many Nazi songs you actually know. But the thing is, at the time when Nigel Farage would have been doing that, because it would have been the really late 60s, maybe, or the 70s when he was doing that, and that would have been a time when you would have like skinheads and the National Front was running wild in this country. So it would have been all kind of fitted that Nigel, he's been accused of these things, right? But all of a sudden now, I know nothing about that. Of course not. Right, but this is who this lady's following, even though she was in Europe with him, and these people just completely let this country down when they was in Europe, and they had chance to do good things for our fisheries. They believe. So, well, they said to her, well, what about? She said, well, what about? Why do the Europeans want the fish in our water? Because, and this is why I say these people are stupid. Just really, really just like thick. I mean, what more can you say about them? If she comes on the TV or comes on the radio and just speaks loud and shouts, waves her hands and say that we're weak, we're this, we're that people stand up and listen. Strangely enough, they do. The thickos actually stand up and they listen to what she's got to say. Now, the reason the EU, they want out of our waters is because that's the kind of fish that they like. I've got to explain this to these people like their children. That's the kind of fish that they like. So, a nice quid pro quo was us being able to go into their waters and them being able to come into our waters. Because if we get banned from their waters, but we haven't got enough strength to ban them from our waters, then we are going to be in a really bad position. Which is where we are right now. We're in a position where we've been spanked. Okay? Our buttocks, right, has been spanked rather hard, really, really hard, badly, right, in front of everybody. Worldwide stage. Okay? That's what's happened. They love the fish that swims around here. Right? You know, in the latest negotiations, the EU just said to Starmer, to be involved in the whole Russia-Ukraine thing, right? If you need to be involved in anything, right, we're going to put the fish in. We're going to put the fish in part of the negotiation. And do you know what Britain can tell the EU to do? I'll tell you what Britain can tell the EU to do. A damn right nothing. Because they've got no negotiating power. That, believe it or not, is the EU giving them, have that as some negotiation power. If you throw your waterways in, right, we'll have that as some negotiating power. That's, you see, the weakness. That's what you've got to understand, right? They like the fish in our waters. We like the fish that swims around in Iceland. If I was Iceland, the minute you signed that deal, I would have said to your boats, no, you're not coming back around here. You're crazy. We're just going to sell you the fish. It's a new industry for us. We opened up an industry for Iceland. Because remember, before we could go and get that ourselves. But we opened up a new industry for Iceland. And anybody else, right, that can go in, anybody else in the EU that can go in that waterways, right? But, anybody else who could go in that waterways and get that fish as well, have opened up new industry because they've got all the fish and chip shops over here that need to stock that fish that's swimming over there. Because unless you was thinking of like maybe, a fish stopper containing mackerel. Maybe the sweetest thing in the kitchen, but is it the sweetest thing in the can? And do we want canned fish as fish and chips in this country? No! We want that good old fish, right, that swims right up there, right, in Iceland. That's the one we want. We don't want none of that. Okay? So, that's where... I don't know what to say to these people. And then the coastal towns are really feeding it. Yeah, and that's their own fault because the majority of those people around there, they voted for Brexit. And that is called FAFO. If you fuck around, you will find out. FAFO. And that's what's happened to these people. They fucked around and now they're finding out. They've destroyed their own villages. They've destroyed their own businesses. Right? And they're looking around for someone to blame. And who they're blaming? It's all those bloody migrants, isn't it? It's all down to those migrants. That's whose fault this is. All down to those migrants. Running politics, on by this racist nonsense has really got to stop because all the industries in this country, I mean, they said that, the fishing industry, 1%, it might not sound like a lot, but, if they said to you, we're going to deposit 1% of GDP into your bank, right? You'd be in Barbados in 3 minutes and 45 seconds flat, right? Or whatever the fastest way to get you there, right? On your own yacht, in your own jet. Right? Seriously, it's a lot of money. But it was a lot better, right, when you was part of the EU. And if you were still part of the EU, your position in those small towns, the 4 small fishing towns, would have been so much better because you had a lot more option of places where you could go. And now what you're doing is you're competing against people who, you can't say, it's not like Britain could have said to those people, no, you can't come. Because even now, as I said, things that we want within the EU to renegotiate, because we're going to need to renegotiate. And, as I will tell you from the beginning, right, the only time Britain will be successful again is when it rejoins the EU. It will not be successful unless it rejoins the EU. You can't have that market so close to us, right, and then look for other markets all over the world. That's not going to work. That's just ridiculous. Right? If you look at this whole situation that we're in at the moment, right, when is the last time any big business has come to set up in this country? They haven't, okay? Not from since we've left the EU. No big business has come set up in this country. So this country is not moving forwards, and the growth rates is like quarter of a percent, when we need growth rates of like 15, 20, 25% growth rates. That's what we really need in this country. The housing market is in complete chaos. The industry, the energy is in complete chaos. So much so that businesses cannot afford the product anymore. And the reason I can't afford it is because it's being provided to them by the private sector. The private sector could not give a shit if your business closes down. Okay, they couldn't care less. You try and have like a company, making like bottles, say like glass bottles or any type of glass. You need so much energy for that. The only people who can supply that energy at a decent cost is the government. A private company cannot supply you that energy at that cost. And what always going to happen is all the businesses are going to go bankrupt, just like what's happened in this country. It's that, and we've got a situation in the housing market where we've got people who have not got no money but buying houses for rich people. Right. What are these people going to do in 25 years' time when you might have bought 2 or 3 houses for rich people by that time, because so much time, different times you move, that situation is another one that's got to change. They want to try and bring industries back to this country. Good luck with that, because it will cost too much money unless they take back control of their gas, water, and electric. We've got British, other than that, Thames Water, who's just about to, they might just be about to call in the official receivers on them, because they have billions and billions in the red. So, that is where privatization has got this country. It has destroyed this country, and the same people who believed in all that nonsense privatization are the same people who have been these Brexiters all this time. And these people have made a complete and utter mess of this country. But at least we can say that the USA have joined us by voting back in Donald Trump, a man who had casinos go bankrupt with 30 odd convictions, and 30, nearly 30 women, accusing him of sexual misconduct, including rape. But at least we can say the USA have joined us. My friends, I have to bow out of here, but this, as I said, is my first video back, so I'm really pleased to be back, and you're going to see a lot more content from me. Look out, for my video what I'm going to post. I'm going to post it later today, which is called Black Fatigue. This is another thing that's just saying. Anyway, my friends, I'm going to be back with another video tomorrow, and I will see you nice and fresh. Look out for some of the, I might post up some of the documentary videos that I've made as well. Might post them up just to see what that gets down. All right, I'll see you guys again tomorrow. My friends, I'm out of here.